In this video, we're going to show you every penalty in American football and what it means when the referee is signaling and the result of that penalty. So you're going to find all of these penalties on Friday night, Saturday night, or even Sunday if you're watching the NFL. Now let's get to it. So first, we're going to start with pre-snap penalties. So this means before the ball is actually snapped, these are the penalties that either the offense or the defense can get. The first penalty is delay of game, and delay of game occurs when the offense doesn't snap the football before the play timer runs out. So before the ball is snapped, every offense has, depending on their rules, roughly 40 seconds to snap the football from when the last play ended. So if the team doesn't snap the football before then, they will get what's called a delay of game penalty, and the ball will get moved 5 yards back, and then they'll replay the down that they just had. The next penalty is the false start penalty. And again, before the ball is snapped, no offensive player can move other than the one single person that's going in motion, okay? So if a team decides to put a guy in motion across the formation, everyone else needs to be still. If someone moves forward, okay, before the ball actually moves, they'll get what's called a false start penalty, which also results in 5 yards. The next penalty is what's called an illegal shift penalty. So as we mentioned with false start, one player can go in motion. What happens if two players move forward towards the line of scrimmage, or even if they go in motion horizontally, the referee will throw what's called an illegal flag for an illegal shift penalty, meaning that two players or even three players or more were going in motion at the same time. You can only have one player that goes in motion. This is an illegal shift penalty, which results in a 5-yard loss for the offense. The next pre-snap penalty is an illegal substitution. So if the offense or defense will break their huddle or have too many men on the field, okay? You can't break the huddle with 12 guys. You have to have 11 in the huddle. So if there's 12 in the huddle and the huddle breaks, the referee can throw a flag for an illegal substitution, meaning that there's 12 players on the field. And again, it results in a 5-yard penalty. These next penalties are mainly geared towards the defensive pre-snap penalties, but the first one we have is encroachment. Encroachment is when the defensive player jumps offsides and actually touches an offensive player before the ball is snapped. So if they touch the offensive player, the referee will throw the flag, 5-yard penalty on the defense, and they will lose those 5 yards and the offense will gain those 5 yards. Next is the neutral zone infraction. So there's an imaginary line that goes about 1 yard on the other side of the football that both teams can't cross. It's a way to separate both the teams. That way they're not lining up helmet to helmet before the ball is snapped. So that invisible line is called the neutral zone. If a defensive player is lined up, maybe their head is past the neutral zone or their hand is past the neutral zone, a referee can call a neutral zone infraction, will throw a flag, and that's a 5-yard loss for the defense and a 5-yard gain for the offense. The last defensive pre-snap penalty is what's called offsides. So if a player is just lining up offsides, okay, this typically happens where player is lining up outside as a linebacker or someone that's blitzing on the outside, and they're just lined up offsides. Whether they're head B or they jump early or whatever it may be, the ref will throw a flag for 5 yards as an offsides penalty. The defense will lose 5 yards. The offense will gain 5 yards. We actually go into deeper explanation between these three penalties, the encroachment, neutral zone infraction, and offsides, because they all are similar and they have one component that's a little bit different. We'll link that article below if you want to learn more about that. We did a whole write-up on that, so you can check that out. So now we're going to talk post-snap penalties. This means the ball has been snapped to the quarterback, and these penalties can occur post-snap, okay, or after the ball is snapped. The first penalty being illegal block in the back. So in football, you're on the offense, you cannot hit another player in the back. Okay, it's highly dangerous, but it's also illegal. It results in a 10-yard penalty for the offense. They get to replay the down, but they lose 10 yards anytime an offensive player can't see the face of a defensive player and hits them in the back. This will be thrown by any referee on the field with a 10-yard loss for the offense. The next type of penalty for the offense is called a chop block. And this is actually one of the most dangerous blocks in football. It's when an offensive player is being blocked up high and then another offensive player comes and blocks him down low. Okay, so you create a high-low effect. It's very dangerous for the defensive players' backs, knees, and everything else because they're in a vulnerable position. This is actually a 15-yard penalty where the offense will lose 15 yards. So this is what's called a chop block. The next penalty is called clipping. So clipping is similar to block in the back, but instead of hitting the player up high, it's when you hit the player down low. So this penalty occurs if a defensive player is running to the football and an offensive player attacks him low and from behind. That's where you'll get a clipping penalty where they will lose, again, 15 yards from getting hit from behind. The next penalty is illegal block below the waist. So In different leagues, the rules differ. So in high school and youth, for the most part, you can't block below the waist in the open fields. The college levels you can. NFL levels are starting to steer back a little bit from blocking below the waist, but a lot of times in the open field, if a player runs and blocks the defense player below the waist, they will get a penalty. It's a 10-yard penalty and a loss for the offense. Next is the illegal forward pass, and this is pretty self-explanatory, but if a player, mainly the quarterback, runs past the line of scrimmage, okay, we talked about that invisible line, the line of scrimmage. If he runs past it where the ball initially started and throws the football, he will get flagged for an illegal forward pass. Results in a 5-yard penalty and a loss of down. Okay, so this is when the quarterback throws it past that line of scrimmage. The next penalty is the illegal hands to the face penalty, and it sounds exactly like it is. It's when any offensive player illegally put their hands on the face mask or literally in their face of the opponent. They can get illegal hands to the face penalty. Obviously, they made that rule, so you're not just having guys stick their hands in the face mask, engaging eyes or scratching, whatever it is. So they keep that penalty safe by any touching of the face will result in illegal hands to the face penalty. Next is the ineligible receiver penalty, and you'll often see a referee will run and will throw his hat on the ground, typically out of bounds or wherever the player went out of bounds. And this is to signal if a receiver gets pushed out of bounds, they have every right to come back in bounds. However, if they go out of bounds on purpose, then come back in bounds, they can't be the first person to catch the football. So this is where you'll see ineligible receiver happen, is when they voluntarily go out of bounds or even the back of the end zone and then come back in and catch the football. You'll get your ineligible receiver hat dropped by the referee. This also can occur if the ball is thrown to either a lineman or someone who's not eligible to catch the football. So for instance, if the center snaps the football and then runs out for a pass, he's not eligible to do that. So the referee will throw an ineligible receiver if he does catch the football. Next is intentional grounding, and this is very important because this rule has a lot of components to it. If it's done properly, the quarterback can get the football away. If it's not done properly, it can really hurt an offense. So first rule is they must be outside of the pocket, okay? And the pocket is this invisible line that's formed from tackle to tackle. Once the quarterback gets outside of the pocket and he has nobody open to throw the football to, he can legally throw it out of bounds. So first he must get out of the pocket, and then he must get the football back to the line of scrimmage. If he does both of those, then he can legally throw the football out of bounds. If for whatever reason the football doesn't get back to the line of scrimmage, or he stays in the pocket and tries to throw it out of bounds, that's when you'll see the intentional grounding happen. The referee will signal this, and the ball will be moved 10 yards back, and then the offense will actually lose a down as well. So it's a double whammy penalty. But those are the two components that go into intentional grounding. Offensive holding is when any player of the offense grabs the defensive player and restricts them from making a tackle. We often see this when a player grabs another player's jersey and then pulls the jersey. That's when you'll often see a referee throw for offensive holding. So they have to get their hands fitted up into the shoulder pads, and they got to move their feet. Any pulling or whatever it is for the offense to the defense will result in an offensive holding penalty, which results in 10 yards. Next penalty for the offense is the offensive pass interference. So this happens when the quarterback throws the football up in the air and the offense either pushes the defensive player or manipulates him in some way where he's not going for the football, but yet trying to alter the movement of the defensive player while the ball is in the air. And that's the key. This penalty will often be thrown when the wide receiver pushes off or pushes away a defensive player to try to catch the football, is where you'll get your 10-yard penalty as for offensive pass interference. Next penalty is tripping, which is pretty self-explanatory. You have to use your hands to block in football. If you kick or trip someone with your feet, you're going to get called for tripping. These next post-snap penalties are common for the defense, and the first one that we're going to lead off with is a face mask penalty. And this occurs if any defensive player grabs an offensive player's face mask, okay? When you tackle someone, you cannot grab their face mask at all. These penalties are similar, illegal hands to the face and face mask, but anytime a player grabs another player's face mask, tries to either tackle him by it or even gets his hand caught in there and pulls on that face mask, a referee can call a 15-yard penalty for face mask and an automatic first down for the offense. The next penalty is the horse collar tackle. So on the back of shoulder pads is what's known as the horse collar, okay? And oftentimes in the early 90s and 80s, players were getting tackled by this horse collar, which is very dangerous for players' knees, hips, ankles, everything to be pulled awkwardly backwards. So football pretty much all across the world instituted the horse collar penalty, which essentially means if you grab the back of the shoulder pad of any running back or whoever the ball carrier is and pull them down by it, it's going to result in a horse collar penalty, which is going to result in a 15-yard penalty for the defense. The next penalty, and one of the more common penalties on defense, is defensive pass interference. So this is when any defensive player who is trying to play the football has too much contact with the wide receiver. So for instance, a ball is thrown to the wide receiver who's running down the field, and the defense doesn't look back to the football. This will often result in a defensive pass interference. That means there's too much contact made with the receiver who's trying to catch the football. Remember, defensive players have just as many rights as the offensive player to try to catch the football, but when there's too much contact involved and not enough trying to get the football, but just trying to make contact with the receiver, is when you're going to get a defensive pass interference penalty. Now, the rules change for every level. In the NFL, it's a spot foul. So if the quarterback throws the football down the field 50 yards and the play happens 50 yards downfield, the penalty, wherever the penalty occurs, is where the ball is going to be spotted for the next play, automatic first down. In college, it's a little bit different. It's automatic 10-yard penalty no matter where the play started, not where the ball was thrown. And then in high school, again, it's 10 yards from where the ball is. So the rules in high school and in college are a bit more similar, but for the NFL, it's where the ball is spotted and where the ball is located is where it will be placed for the next down. The next two penalties are roughing the kicker and running into the kicker. And this occurs both on punting and kicking situations. If the player who's, let's say, punting, punts the football and gets the ball off completely, and the defense doesn't touch the football or any block attempts, whatever it is, and then some player comes and just nails the punter, that's going to result in a 15-yard roughing the kicker penalty. However, it's to the referee's discretion what is roughing into, if it's malicious intent, or if it's just running into where they're barely touching him, but you still can't hit the kicker, okay? Football does a pretty good job of just protecting the kicker because, A, they are very valuable, but two, they're in a vulnerable position because they're trying to kick a football and their eyes are down on the football rather than being up, so they are a defenseless player. The next penalty is targeting, and you'll often see this in the NFL because they've made it a priority, as well as college. They made it a priority to make sure players are staying safe and that players aren't leading with their head. So the next penalty is what's called targeting. Targeting means that a player is going to catch a football or even running the football. They're running full speed at them and using their head as a weapon. Football is trying to be more safe, and this is one of the ways that they're trying to do it is by having referees call targeting, and then they may even eject a player if they think it's violent enough. That's why they always say make sure the contact is made the chest or below the waist to stay away from the head and neck area. So referees will call this targeting, which often results in a 15-yard penalty and could result in a player being removed from the game or even suspended for the next couple of games as well. The next penalty is called an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. So this often happens after the play. So if two players are going at it and they're talking trash to each other and one punches the other one in the face or does anything that's unsportsmanlike, okay? This could be taunting. This could be anything that is outside the rules of what a football player should be doing on the field. So anything unsportsmanlike is how they dubbed it. This will result in a 15-yard penalty. Again, it's all to the referee's discretion. Maybe they let the trash talk happen. Maybe another referee doesn't like the trash talk, so he'll throw a flag right away. But this will often result in a 15-yard penalty for either the offense or defense, whoever gets that penalty. We do have an article below where we list every single motion that the referee will do, as well as more detail on all of these penalties. So be sure to check that out. We'll put that in the description below. If you do have any comments or you think I missed anything, please let us know in the comment section below. We try to read all of them and get back to you as well. And please check out these videos here to learn a little bit more football and to educate yourself on the game of American football.